Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Florida Business Forum, Florida's #1 business forum podcast. Here's your information guru and anchorman, Sam Yates.
Wow!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Florida Business Forum podcast. I'm Sam Yates, your host and information guru, and I underline that today because it's a guru to guru operation today. I have a very special guest, and I say that with a lot of pride because the person who is my guest has a lot to bring to the table today. Abby Lindenberg, President and CEO of Capital Analytics Associates. And I pause to make those lowercase because when you see the logo, as you do on the screen, it's all lowercase, very modest, and that in itself is amazing because, Abby, you have accomplished some wonderful things, awesome things in the last 10 years. So welcome to the Florida Business Forum podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sam.
You know, I want to get into the company, and you've done a remarkable job, as I said, about building the company, an amazing history over the past 10 years, but I always like to get to know more about my guests. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been in Florida now for almost 15 years. I'm originally from New Jersey, but moved to Miami, started my company here in Miami. So I wear the hat of entrepreneur. I also wear the hat of mom to my 6-year-old. I also am an avid traveler. I've been to over 50 countries around the globe. And I'm also a dancer. I've done a variety of different styles throughout my life, but most recently a lot of ballroom in the rhythm and Latin world.
Always good to get a little bit of a snapshot about the person because it gives insight into what makes you, you, and also an insight into the areas that are important to you. And again, I'm going to get into CAA in a moment, but you know a lot about alpha mannosidosis personally because your daughter Layla has that rare genetic disorder. Tell us about that disorder and your position as vice president of the International Society for Mannosidosis and Related Diseases. Tell us about that.
Yeah, of course. So my daughter, when she was born, was hitting all of her milestones, but we kind of noticed not exactly like other kiddos. And so to make a very long odyssey, as we call it in the rare disease space, short, over the course of 3 years and about 15 plus doctors between America and Europe. Her dad is Italian, so we were able to see some doctors there. We finally were able to get the diagnosis of alpha mannosidosis, which is in the lysosomal storage disorder family. And basically means that her brain wasn't producing an enzyme that breaks down sugars. And so that causes muscular, skeletal, and cognitive disorders, delays, and deformities. And so it has, a range of different severities. And the lucky thing in her case is that she does have a treatment. It's a scary treatment. It's bone marrow transplant. But 2 years ago, we did do that in Minneapolis, where the experts in her rare disease space, a lot of them are. So we ended up moving to Minneapolis, where many of the doctors who are experienced in her rare disease are based. And over the course of 7 months, we were able to do her bone marrow transplant, and she is all the better for it. I mean, this kiddo is just has a new lease on life, and it's wonderful. And there was this fog over her eyes that has just cleared, and she had hearing loss. The hearing has come back. We just actually went to Minneapolis for her 2-year bone marrow transplant checkup, and her labs are wonderful. Her testing has been on the up and up. So we're very blessed to be able to have a treatment for her disease because in ISMRD, where I sit on the board, there's 8 other diseases, and not all of them have a cure. And so I'm intimately aware that very close disorders to hers, still there are parents on the front line fighting for a cure for their kiddos. And so that is why it was important for me to join ISMRD so that I can help assist parents when they find themselves in that moment of what is going on, what does this mean? It's incredibly scary, that I can help guide them towards some answers.
Well, I want to compliment you on your passion for that. I can say that I know how you feel. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. We are finding that we share quite a lot. When it comes to rare disease, my wife uh, had a bout of transverse myelitis, which is typically a childhood disorder affecting the nerves on both sides of the body that as an adult, it ultimately led to deterioration of her kidneys, and she's now on that dialysis that I mentioned earlier. So when you are faced with something like that, Abby, as you were, it's a challenge, it's a mountain ahead of you, and you have overcome that. And our prayers for Layla that she continues to improve. But there's so much that needs to be done in the field of medicine. So I really think it's awesome what you have been doing.
Thank you.
The I'm a news guy, a journalist. We have a lot in common. Uh, when you decided that this was your passion, and I'm talking about CAA, what was the driving force, and when did you know that this was something you wanted to do?
So I was working for a British publishing company almost directly out of college.
Mhm.
And they were focused on doing annual economic reports on different emerging countries. And so I spent about 10 years between the Middle East, a little bit in Asia, and then I moved to Miami to open up our Latin American offices. And during that time, I was trying to find a similar report in Miami or the state of Florida because I moved around so much. I was moving about every 6 months or so, which was a wonderful way to see the world. But when you want to acclimate yourself really quickly and find out, who's who and what's what, the books that we produced were a wonderful way to quickly understand everything. And so I wanted to find that resource for me, a new resident in Miami, and I couldn't find it. And I thought that was strange. And then I looked for the state of Florida, and I still couldn't really find it. And there were some reportings that were, smaller publications that were used by different investment boards that, basically said that low taxes, sun all year round. And I was like, there's got to be more to this, right? And if I'm an investor, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm a business person, I would like more research to kind of cut through all of the Google searches that you could do for, on and on and on. I want to know right now who's there, what are they saying about the market? And so that is what inspired me to start CAA. And so Miami was our very first market, and I think a perfect place to start something like this. It's a city that wants it and wants it bad. And if I think about the last 10 years, we've seen the growth that Miami has experienced. And it is a absolutely emblematic of trying to bring that investment and doing it. There has been challenges and struggles like any market is going to experience, but they're tackling it head on. And I think that is emblematic of also the other markets that we have decided to open since that first market in Miami. We now are up to 18, and all of them are really gunning for more people, more businesses, more economic development.
Well, I have to hand it to you. I know that, as you look over my shoulder, I had a challenge a number of years ago for my marketing public relations company when clients would say, Sam, the local newspaper is not covering business news. The television station is chasing ambulances. What are you going to do about me? And I was like, well, I used to do this for a living. Why don't we start a podcast? They're like, ha ha, yep, a podcast. And then, lo and behold, it's tops in the state today because people want to have some place to turn where they can get, I want to call it credible news, as you have yours. It's different, but if you don't have that credibility, you don't have anything. Or if it's not there and you fill that void. Did you think, looking back in the last 10 years, that you could be where you are today?
It's an interesting question because when you're thinking about the media landscape today versus where it was 10 years ago, so many things have changed. So many things have changed. I mean, a further move to digital versus print, that's one of the obvious ones. The onset of AI and how AI has changed how we create, like in the media space, how we create news, create content, the way that we employ people. Before, when I started 10 years ago, it was all in person, on the ground, and now we can hire anyone, anywhere and join like we are today on Zoom. So the landscape is completely different. So could I have still started CAA in today's landscape versus 10 years ago? I think the answer is still yes. But I think that the way I would have approached it would have been completely different. And also hindsight is 2020. I've learned a lot of things over the last 10 years. I would love to bring those lessons with me as a young entrepreneur, but those are only things that you can learn when you're actually doing the work. So, but I do think it's possible. I just think it would be incredibly different.
Well, that leads me right into another question. What do you see for the future? You mentioned AI. AI scares the hell out of a lot of people, especially in the business where we write and we compile words. Uh, Challenge for you and the company?
You know what? I don't want to scare people as well, but yeah, I do think that it is a huge challenge. And I think it's a huge worry, especially when it comes to information, because that's what we do, right? Yeah, we're in the business of getting the correct information out there. And so right now, how we're viewing AI is kind of the internal and the external. So internally, are we using AI? Yes, we are. But is it replacing humans at the steering wheel? Absolutely not. And I think that that will be critical when it comes to media in any form, because at the end of the day, I believe people want truth and they want to trust. And the only way that we can do that is by discerning what is real and what is fake. And the fake news, when I think of real news, do you think of fake news? It's getting more and more real. The deep fakes that we're seeing nowadays, and AI has not been around very long. They're only going to get better. And so again, back to the internal, we are always going to have humans at the steering wheel, and they might use the tools of AI. But before we let our audience read or consume any of our content, we are going to ensure that we know that it is accurate. And then when I think of externally, we are utilizing many sources to pull together our analysis. We have in-person interviews, which is, easy to know that if we're speaking to a real person or not. I think that that will change. But in today's environment, I know that I'm talking to a real person in front of me. But then we're also consuming a lot of articles and other publications to put together our analysis. And so we have to ensure that what we're consuming externally to then create our analysis is accurate. And that's going to require humans. But I think it's something that we continue to watch, and we watch the evolution. It will be both helpful and it will also be hurtful.
Logistics. You have a reach across many different industries. You have a reach from many different locations. For those who may be listening right now, it's not a one-man band or a one-woman shop. You have a lot of people working on a lot of different things, but I always look at it and say, but there is a maestro leading it all, and that's you.
Yes.
Does it, how does it work when it comes to deciding content, for example?
Sure. Well, I think one of the wonderful things in the way that we do our research is that it's an annual report that we take about 6 months to put together. And over the course of 6 months, we're meeting with about 200 local CEOs in all of the markets that we cover. So imagine 18 different markets. Every single year, we're speaking to approximately 200 people in each market. And through those conversations, that is what dictates what we're writing about. And that's how we can be accurate of what's happening in the market at that moment in time. Because our end readers are those CEOs. Our end readers are those entrepreneurs and those business people, the investors, the private equity, the hedge funds that are coming into the market. And who do they want to hear from? What's happening right now? Their counterparts in market. So while we have a vision and we're always going to put together that blueprint, that kind of skeleton of what we're trying to obtain, we very much let it organically grow from the conversations that we have with the brilliant minds that we're able to tap into.
How do you choose those experts, and how do you drive that ship forward by soliciting that input? What's the process, and what makes someone out there stand out and you go, ah, there's a rising star. We've got to hear from that person.
Well, there's the typical Google searches to figure out who are the major players in the market. We also do look at many of the EDCs, the economic development corporations or councils in the various different markets, and see who's like on their boards or who's actively engaged. We'll also be able to check, we also check press releases of recent companies that have moved into the space. But then we go further. We're looking at not just the large companies, we're also looking at the small companies. We wouldn't be able to comment on the economy overall if we weren't trying to get all opinions from all different industries, all different sizes of companies, whether it's female-led companies, family-owned companies, big companies that are listed on the stock exchange. We're crossing the gamut. So really it just requires, one, a lot of research, and then a lot of asking. In all of the meetings that we are conducting, we're asking, who are you doing business with? Who are you watching? And then we're going to add those companies to our database. So always ask that question, always look up more. Everyone has something to add to the table. And so we're going to be constantly looking for companies and new CEOs that want their voice to be heard.
But I know that it's not an easy job when you're pulling all these together. What about forecasting? Are you comfortable with the state of the economy right now to look ahead a year or 2 years? Anything on the forecast that you see that you can share with us based on your expertise and all the connections that you have?
After all of the changes over the past couple of years, that would be a fool's errand. So what we try and do and how we're trying to formulate our interviews and each and every year's report is to at least look 6 months ahead of when we are printing. Because I think that our economy in general is very dynamic, the United States. I think when you drill down to the city and the county level, it is incredibly dynamic on a good day. And then when we consider what has been happening over the past number of months geopolitically, with inflation and tariffs, we try to stay in the present while looking a little bit further without getting too ahead of ourselves, because we want to be able to produce accurate content for investors to drive business. And so if we get too ahead of ourselves, we're not going to be giving them the valuable information they need.
Love that explanation. I love it. I speak from a vantage point of periodically being in touch with folks within the housing industry, the home building industry, and was just given a briefing from the National Association of Home Builders chief economist that, hold on. Things are not going to be as bad as some people think they're going to be in another 6 months to a year, but watch out, because everything is subject to change. And you summed that up as well there. So I think it's something we have to watch about. From a news standpoint, we do see, and I can give you my vantage point, that as a regular down in the trench every day journalist, news has changed. I know there are a lot of fingers being pointed and names being called, and whether it's fake news, true news, but it is changing almost on a daily basis. Is that a fair assessment from what you see too?
Oh, yes. I think that it has never changed as rapidly as we're experiencing right now. I think you're spot on.
If you had to pick something for your future, where would you like to be in a year, 5 year, 10 years with your company?
So what we've been observing is that people want information. They want true, good information. And I think that has been one of the cornerstones for our success over the past 10 years. We were built with a mission to give you, on the ground information from the people who are making it happen right now. That was true 10 years ago, it's still true today, and that is why our audience continues to come back to our reports. However, we've also watched this huge shift to digital. And not just the digital in the sense of like how we are reading and consuming on a computer or our phone or our tablet, but also in the virtual world. COVID only accelerated that. We're working from home. We're far more separated than we have been before, which has had many advantages. But now what we're kind of watching is more of a shift to intentional in-person. We value our time more than we ever have before because we learned that when we work from home, we have all these advantages and whatnot. But we still need to be out there. We're still humans at the end of the day. So what we're kind of observing, and we've seen that through our in-person conferences. At the end of our research, when we produce a report, we have a a 200 to 300 person conference to talk about the themes of the report. We have panels, discussions, we have keynote addresses. Often it's the mayor of the city at hand. And we bring people together in a intentional, authentic way. And the discussions are amazing. And then kind of people go back to their own little lives and they miss out on all of these amazing connections. And so what actually we've released this year is an app called Connexio. And its very purpose is intentional networking. And so think of a scaled down version of LinkedIn where you have a profile and you can meet counterparts who are interested in doing business, finding clients, being a mentor right now. And so if you're at an event and you are surrounded by 300 people and you're like, who's here to network? Who's here in my industry or an industry that I wish to meet? You can go on, review people's profiles, match, unmatch, and then message through them and have those in intentional meeting. So this is where we see kind of communication and information going from the virtual world to intentional in person.
I think that's an amazing description. I'm seeing the same thing. Didn't have that description of it. May I borrow it? Because that really sums it up.
Yeah. Absolutely, you can borrow it.
All right. I always like to ask. I don't plagiarize, but that does. And it's amazing that so many people don't know until they have that intentional get together of what they have been missing. And they're like, oh my gosh, what have we been doing wrong? We were sheltered at home, and then we were afraid to go out, and then we were able to do business virtually. And it's almost like a rebirth of human beings again. People just
Yes.
love it.
I like that term of a rebirth because, we isolated and coming back together. But if you experienced in person before, I mean, those kind of kiddos in their early 20s that maybe went from high school to college only virtually and maybe are only working at home, I do feel for them because they didn't have that experience of in person, it taking away, and then us going back into it. However, they're very part of the fabric of what we're trying to do and bringing them into this business realm of meeting and doing business. And so I do see that continuing to develop and people being very purpose driven for it because we still need it. In person builds trust, it builds community, it builds communication, which are cornerstones of what we believe at CAA and Connexio.
Now, from the vantage point of company, we've talked about a lot here, but how can people make sure that they don't miss your publications, don't miss your podcast, and don't miss Connexio? How can they make sure that they're center stage for all of that that's going on?
Well, certainly you can find us online. For CAA, it's capitalanalyticsassociates.com. For Connexio, it's connexio.app, APP. And that's the best way to find us online. We do have our social media profiles. Predominantly LinkedIn is where you can find us. And we would be happy to either send you a report, have you as a subscriber. If you're interested in being interviewed on any of our platforms, please do also reach out to us. And the best email address there is contact@capitalaa.com.
Well, I'll have to say that one of these days I'm going to come knock on the door and say, interview me. I don't know on what topic, but I love chatting, so we could probably find something to talk about. But since we have covered a lot of material, is there any area that we haven't touched upon that you want to make sure that we touch upon?
I would just add that no matter what we've talked about today, whether it's entrepreneurialism, media, tech, the rare disease space, there's two important cornerstones, which is the right information and communicating it. With those two, you can be successful. And today's age, we feel like we're on information overload. And to be fair, it's more information than people in human history have ever been confronted with. We have something in our pocket that gives us any information that we need. So yes, it's very overwhelming. And us at CAA, we know that too, because that's our business. We're either reading articles all day long, consuming publications, meeting with all of our interviewees to put together what our annual reports. So I get it. But I believe that with the right information and communicating it correctly, that is what is going to elevate business in all of our markets that we cover or the markets that we hope to soon be in. Bringing the right people together, talking about the right topics, and thinking about forward momentum. And that is always going to be the place that, whether it's CAA or Connexio, try to be in.
Can you give us any hint of where another market might be that you could be in the next year?
There are so many markets I wish to open. So I'll just give you a bunch of them that I'm a big fan of. Phoenix, Denver, San Diego, Austin, Chicago. There's so many. There's so many wonderful cities that are, really trying to, again, bring in the right investors, bring in the right people. And when I think about, what we do, before, the onus of attracting investment was on the state level, and that has vastly shifted. It's all on the city and county level. And not all cities and counties are well equipped with the right reporting to inform the right people and the right investors. And we've also seen such a dynamic shift in where people are. People are moving in droves to new cities because they can with the virtual world. And so we are here to be a partner with all of those areas that want to tell their story and bring in new investment and bring their city forward.
Amazing. Great news there. Toughest question. And it is the question that everybody was like, oh my God, it's the toughest question Sam's going to ask me now. And that question is, will you be able to come back for a future episode?
Absolutely. It would be my honor, Sam.
Fantastic. I haven't had a single person turn me down yet, but it is sometimes that pregnant pause just before the question comes out, going, "Oh my gosh, what's the question going to be?" And I also have to say thank you, Carla, who is somewhere floating behind us in the ether. But without Carla making the contact with me, I don't think we'd have had the opportunity to chat today. So I just want to give her a shout out, because sometimes the people that do the hard work need to be recognized. So I want to thank her very much. And we are going to have you back again in the future. And if I can return the favor, I bet you're a tough interviewer. So I'll have to study up, but I'll volunteer at some point one day. But Abby, thank you for being here with us.
I'll grill you, Sam. You'll be prepared, I'm sure.
Oh, no. Well, I have been known to be prepared. So, all right. Abby, thank you very much. And we look forward to having you come back in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And in the meantime, I'm Sam Yates, your host and information guru for the Florida Business Forum. Until our next episode, have a great day, everybody.
You've been listening to Florida's #1 Business Forum podcast. Thanks for listening. Until our next episode, stay tuned for more business.